Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Lisum coming to you today with my amazing guest co host, Danielle Lee Darling, and we're Evolving Women. We're so glad you're here. Our mission is to infuse the world with uplifting messages, new and fresh perspectives, empowering tools, and abundance of resources. From wellness ideas to mindset shifts and self belief strategies and more, we're dedicated to providing a reservoir of inspiration. Consider this your official permission to embrace your best life and thrive abundantly. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So here we are, episode 2 with the delightful Danielle Lee Darling. And if you haven't checked out episode 1, please go do that. And we're going to continue the conversation today. And we're going to dig more into having inner compassion for ourselves and doing the work on our own inner landscape, because we can't control anybody outside of us. We can only control what's happening inside of us. So let's go ahead and move forward, Danielle. I'm so glad you're here again. Thank you so much for being here. So please tell me, I love the phrase inner compassion muscle. That's an awesome phrase.
Well, it's all of this stuff is in us. I just say it's like an atrophied muscle. We don't practice it. We've worked in this culture, the Western culture, I'll speak for it.
Yep.
Not so much for the Eastern, but in the Western culture, especially, we are a very masculine energy. We're hustle, 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 grind, grind, grind. You're not doing enough, going hard enough kind of thing. And that just socializes us into a highly critical, regardless of your upbringing, you are exposed to it. I had a critical upbringing, and so I was predisposed to perfectionism and people pleasing.
Yep.
And it's hard to get out of those patterns, especially when your brain becomes hardwired through those pathways we talked about in episode 1 to need that external validation, whether it's the accolades from hustling or whether it's the expressions you're getting from friends and family members, and that acceptance, that validation that you're doing the right thing. And so we lose sense of our inner compass. We lose sense of our inner guidance system. And the idea around anxiety, there's some really great research that's coming out about how anxiety is rooted in separation anxiety. And it's no wonder that anxiety has become such an epidemic, because our separation from our inner truths and our inner selves is really causing a lot of that anxiety, because we are focusing on what we should do, not what's in alignment with our powerful truth.
Wow.
And so a lot of this inner child work is when your inner child is. So for instance, for me as a people pleaser, let's use an example. If I am making a choice and taking control of my identity that is in alignment with my ideal self and who I want to be, that's out of alignment with the child inside of me that is a people pleaser. And so she's going to raise an alarm, because she's like, this pathway is not taking us to safety anymore. This is dangerous. And she's set kind of like a tripwire on our path saying, right? And so she sets off an alarm. And so our job is to recognize when that anxiety comes up, or that misalignment, is to go back and give our inner child what she needed when that tripwire was set. That one time that we maybe used our voice, right? And we got reprimanded for using our voice. And so we were taught to stay quiet. We go into adulthood and we start to use our voice, and our inner child's like, we have to retrain her. We have to say, no, baby girl, like that. I understand that is what you thought you needed at that point in time in order to stay safe, but you are safe. You are loved. You are enough, and your voice is valid, and your voice is needed. And I am so proud of you for speaking up and choosing to speak up. And I know you were so scared back then, right?
Mm,
It's about getting down and being at her level and giving
mhm,
her the validation and the love and the acceptance and unconditional acceptance that she needed back then in order to flourish into her ideal self. Now you're just doing it much later in life. So
mhm,
we just have to connect the two, right?
mhm.
So
I
yeah,
love
does that help?
that.
Mm-hmm.
You're parenting yourself
Yes, that's where the
as that
concept of
that small
reparenting.
inner
Mhm.
child. And it might sound a little crazy to some people that you're talking to your past inner child. So it takes some visualization, even if you can't just go through the process. I think it can be really, really powerful. I know recently went through a activity where it was suggested I get a photo of myself
Mhm.
as the little one and just look at how innocent and loving that little child was. And I should, I can be like that. I don't want to say should, because I can be like that now to that inner child who's still in me,
Yep.
and I can treat that little child with compassion and grace. And so I went and got a photo, and it's
I
in
love
my
it.
closet where I can see it every day. And I just love the idea. So if you can't visualize it, find a photo possibly that you can look at and talk to, or just write it out. You could journal it out, write a
Yeah.
letter to your inner child. Um,
Mhm.
it sound like I said, could sound crazy to some people, but try
It
it.
totally can.
It could be very, very powerful.
I always tell my clients to take a picture of their 6-year-old self and make it the background on their phone
Oh, I love
because
that
they see
idea.
it constantly.
Yeah.
And so that comes back to the inner critic, right? So we can be critical of ourselves. And if you take the thoughts that you're thinking as your adult self and you project them on a 6-year-old child,
Mm.
that's child abuse.
Yeah, you're right. You're
You wouldn't
exactly
do
right.
that. You wouldn't do that
Mm-hmm.
to your own child. You wouldn't do
Yep.
that to a stranger's child on the street. Like you
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't do that to a child, period. So what
Yes.
makes it okay for you to do that to yourself,
Great question. Right.
right? Essentially, you're an abusive person. I have a TikTok
Mm-hmm.
that's like, are you an abusive person? Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
talking to yourself this way, you're abusing yourself. You're
Mm.
abusing your inner child. So it's all connected, and we have to accept all parts of us, the good, the bad, the ugly, the parts of us that we are maybe ashamed of acknowledging, but it's a part of who we are, and it's about embracing all of that, and it's embracing the path that has gotten you
Yeah.
here. And so
Yeah.
another part of the inner child work that I work with my clients is forgiveness,
Mm.
because we have to forgive the things that happened to us that created these paths so
Mm-hmm.
that we can be free emotionally to create a new path forward.
Mm.
And sometimes we have to forgive ourselves
Yes.
because,
Yes.
again, we're hardwired for criticism, especially in this
Mm-hmm.
culture. So, a really powerful tool that I use is the Ho'oponopono prayer. Have you ever heard of this,
Mm.
Teresa?
Oh, yes. I use that
Yeah,
myself. Yeah.
I love this prayer. I love this prayer. And so it's so simple. And I don't know if you've gone over it on another podcast, so I don't want to, but it's just saying, I'm sorry. Thank you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love
I love
you.
you. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
chanting it over and over again. It's just connecting with your source. And it's so incredibly powerful that it can release energies around people that were involved in the certain situations that you're trying to release without even actually talking to them or confronting
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a story that Tony Robbins says about the guy who developed it and how he was in a mental health ward and people weren't getting better. And he didn't actually see any client. He just spoke this prayer over their files continuously.
Yes.
And about 6 months later, everybody was cleared out.
Yes,
And
I have heard
forgiveness,
that. That's
that's such a great
amazing.
story,
Mhm.
right? Like, I just feel like that's such a testament to the power of forgiveness and the energy of resentment and how, like we talked in the last episode, it can really kink up your hose and not
Mhm.
allow you to step into your powerful identity.
Yeah, we want that hose to be nice and straight and open,
Mhm.
open flow back and forth in both directions. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that visualization. I love that. Oh my gosh, where do we want to go? Where do I want to go next? Forgiveness, inner child. External validation. I kind of want to come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked me once, well, why does it matter? Why are you seeking validation from other people? And like it literally stopped me in my tracks. Like,
Yeah.
that's a darn good question. Why am I?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, we kind of grow up seeking that external validation. I don't know where it starts. I really don't. I've never thought about it, but it was just like a big aha for me like, oh, I don't need external validation. I can give myself permission and validation and, yeah, compassion, like we've all taught, we've been talking about. So that was a huge thing for me. Like, yeah, no, we don't need to seek that
Yeah. I mean,
outside of
if you
ourselves.
think about childhood and rearing children, it's important to give them positive feedback when they do things right.
Hmm.
And so, because again, we don't have critical thinking skills, it can be difficult for us at that age to differentiate between just that positive validation as far as just guiding us to good behavior versus it like actually being kind of ingrained and like in that like that dopamine hit that we get from it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's harder, I feel like, even now with the social media and the like the YouTube, like they're just like, get, if you like this video, then you're amazing. And like they just get these
Hmm.
little dopamine hits
Yep.
and it's very addictive. And
Oh
so
yeah.
we can get really tied into needing that validation in order to feel worthy, to feel enough
Hmm.
and whatnot. And so, like, something I've been doing with my daughter, she's in the fourth grade. So she's going into fifth. And it's that time when, girls, like, start to get a little catty sometimes, or they have
Yep.
things to
Yep.
say about your outfit or your hair and stuff.
Mhm.
And she's just like, she will make a comment that somebody said something about her hair. And I'm just like, well, what do you think about your hair? What do you think about it? And she's like, I love my hair. I'm like, that's all that matters.
Yeah,
Like,
good for
and I'm just
you.
really trying to drive that home with them that they don't need to change themselves in order
Right.
to be more lovable or acceptable to anybody else. Belonging to yourself is the most important thing.
Mm. Belonging to yourself. I've never
Yeah.
heard it said like that.
Well, we're hardwired for belonging because it's a
Yeah.
survival mechanism,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
In our caveman days, we needed to belong to a tribe in order for us
Yep.
to have shelter and safety. But we aren't taught how to belong to ourselves. And that's what I love about identity-based coaching is because you choose that identity and you learn to
Mm.
belong to yourself so that you makes you more resilient to life's challenges. When I'm actually working on developing a divorce program right now with two of my colleagues in the financial and divorce mediation areas, and they wanted to bring me in on to kind of create a well-rounded program because we need that um, rootedness. So much of our identity sometimes is wrapped up in our roles as a
Yes.
wife, as a
Yes. Yep.
parent, as a worker, a sister, a
Mm-hmm.
daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you remove all of that stuff, what is left? That is belonging
Yeah.
to yourself.
Yeah. You're right.
That is
Right.
your true identity. And so when you create a nice unshakable identity and you know who you are, you know your values, you know your virtues, you know the vision that you have for your life, and you know how that creates a the kind of like the bumpers on the bowling alley of life. You know exactly how to show up, right? To get you to your goals.
Mm-hmm.
You're unshakable. You get resilience when things come up. You have that filter to go with, like, that doesn't align with my values,
Mm-hmm.
that's outside of my boundaries, and that's not okay, so that's crossing the line. So you have a complete playbook on how to operate in your life, how to get to your goals
Mm-hmm.
faster. You can make decisions easier,
Yeah.
and you have more clarity in creating the vision that you have for your life.
Yes. And imagine, I'm so delighted that you are parenting your child. This is what you're teaching them. I wish I had had this way back when, you know. I mean, just to have that unshakable identity. And yet, no, this is how I am. No, thank you. Because peer pressure comes in. Me and my
Yep.
granddaughter was just having that conversation yesterday. Like, no, this is me. If you don't like it, oh well, you don't have to be my friend or whatever. I'm just
Yeah.
pulling something out. But that unshakable identity that we can choose.
Mhm.
That whole concept of choosing our identity could be foreign to some people because we seem to fall into that by default, like you
Mhm.
said, based on all the different roles and all the hats we're wearing throughout life. I know there was a point, when you're a mom and you're a daughter and you're a wife and, you got all these roles and whatever your job puts on you. There's one point like, who am I really? Like, I don't really know
Yeah.
because I'm trying to fulfill and step into these models, these stereotypes that everybody else feels I should be. There's that should word
Mhm.
again. And to know that I could intentionally develop my own identity with a purpose, that was like a big thing. That was a
Yeah.
new concept.
Yeah, I love that. The reason why I get on the shoulding so much is because should elicits an emotion of shame, right?
Oh,
When you say
yeah.
I should be doing better. I should do this. It implies a lack, that
Mm,
there's a disconnect between who you are and who you know yourself to be and what this expectation is. And
mm,
I always say the depth of between your expectation, which is usually high, and your reality is the depth of your pain.
mm.
When we say should to ourselves, and if you're listening to this right now and you're in a safe place where you can close your eyes and say to yourself, I should be doing better, or I should do this, or I should do that. Just close your eyes and drop into your body, because most of you will feel like a twisting sensation inside your body or a
Mm,
rounding of the shoulders. And that's the physical manifestation of shame. It's hiding. So when we say should, we are hiding our true selves.
mm,
And we are trying to step into a identity that is not in alignment with who we truly are.
mm,
And we're just shaming ourselves. And
mm,
we're also, too, when we're shaming ourselves, your no actual change comes from a place of shame or fear. Think of this when you parent a child, right? You're like, what are you doing? You
mhm.
shouldn't do that.
Yep, yep.
Is that child going to change?
Mhm,
No. It is only from a place of compassion and love and grace that our nervous system can relax enough in order to take steps towards that change. It feels safe enough. But if it
mhm,
is paralyzed in shame and fear,
mm.
your body goes into survival mode. And so your brain is just like, how do I just stay alive? Oh, I need to adapt. I need to become somebody I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
in order,
exactly.
right?
Mhm,
And that's how those pathways start, those little
mhm,
paths in the forest. So,
mhm. Wow. Yeah, that whole should, I never thought of it as being the equivalent of shame. Shame should mean shame. That's huge. That's a huge thing for me. So I appreciate that. And then it implies a sense of lack. That is so true.
mhm.
It's something I really gotta think more about and process.
Yeah.
But I do try to be consciously aware of when I use that word should, and I try to change it, but it is, we do have to be aware because it's a pattern.
Yeah.
We're bombarded with that all the time. So
This is
even
like
just
my
that
main,
one little,
my main thing, my main message is stop shooting on yourself.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
I still do it from time to
yeah,
time. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh my goodness. And I like that. It just elicits just so many negative feelings. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
the word, and I should say, should be taken out of our language because
Yeah.
it's not empowering and it's not helpful at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
Plus,
yeah.
should is putting our thoughts and expectations on another person. Oh, you should do it this way. You
Yes.
should see, but we're trying to convince them, do it our way, basically,
Right.
or do it society's way, or do
And
it. Yeah.
that's, yeah, like, and then we're talking about parenting a lot in this episode. And I really love that because if we can refrain from using it with our kids and say, well, what do you think would be the best way to handle that
Mm,
situation?
mm.
And have a conversation with them. I think we totally underestimate our kids and their
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
ability to, I mean, of course, it depends on the age. Mine are 10 and 13 right now. So I'm in like making good decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even the psychologist that I work with my son, it talks about friendly decisions versus unfriendly
Mm.
versus
Ooh.
good versus bad. Because if we create this connotation around language, I mean, language is so
No, it
powerful,
certainly
right?
is.
And
Yes.
if it's
Yeah.
like you made a bad decision, that
Mm-hmm.
can be translated into I am bad. It's like no,
Yes. Yes.
like unfriendly. And
Mm-hmm.
something that we can easily turn that around. It's not who you are. Because shame is you are bad,
Mm-hmm.
you did something bad, right?
Right.
So it's more internalized and it can be easily internalized with kids. And so I'll eliciting conversations with them, having those conversations, asking them their opinions, what they think would be a good idea, allows them to flex that critical thinking muscle
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
earlier so they don't internalize as much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Love all of that. I'm going to invite you to share with our listeners and our viewers how they can connect with you. And then maybe we can wrap this up and offer a call to action beyond that. I know I have a thought, but we'll see what you can come up with. So please share where you can be found.
I can be found on all social media channels at Darling as Peter Pan, Wendy Darling, not as in a last name, not as Darlene.
Mhm.
So that's a great way to find me. And of course, my website, danielleleedarling.com. There is a great freebie on the first page, as well as I offer free consultation calls. So you can click on contact me and get a free consultation call where we can talk about the vision that you have for your life and what's holding you back from getting there.
Love that. Definitely want to jump on that opportunity to have a free conversation with Danielle. For a call to action, I'm just going to offer be aware of how many times you say the word should.
Yes. Oh, yes. As far as action plan, definitely. Like, yeah. Take should
And
out of you should take
you
should.
should, yeah, you should pay attention to your shoulds coming out of your mouth.
Stop shitting on yourself, please.
But just see if that's, I mean, it's not going to happen all the time, but just once in a while, have an awareness. And how could you change the word to something more positive and productive and affirming as opposed to should? So
Yes.
just a little bit of a challenge to our
I
viewers
love
and
that. Just
listeners.
bringing awareness around your language and the words that you use
Yeah.
can make a tremendous impact. Shifting those to a more positive narrative can make a tremendous impact on your energy.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The power of words is a whole nother conversation, man. So thank you so much, Danielle. This has been so delightful. I hope it's brought many new perspectives and insights to our viewers and our listeners. Thank you so much. I invite you to get a hold of Danielle, at least go check out her freebie offerings and explore on your own. And you should do that.
That one I'll let slide.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye bye. Thanks, Danielle.